Hey guys, what's happening? So we're back with more Ultimate Spider-Man. And it won't be too long before we have even more from this series to go over, but I wanted to get caught up with issue 14 because there's so many things that come full circle in this issue that just had me like, we gotta talk about this before we go any further. So with that said, if you're enjoying these videos, be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications. Alright, so for Ultimate Spider-Man issue 14, this picks up in February, which is basically where issue 13 and more or less overlapped and left off, because now we pick back up from the cliffhanger where we saw the new Black Cat going after Peter's son, Richard Parker, who she thinks is Spider-Man because he's wearing the suit. And really she's here because her father, the original Black Cat, stepped out, went up against Spider-Man and the Green Goblin, only to end up in a wheelchair with tubes up his nose, which is why she's taking her father's place and why she's here to return the favor. And she makes that clear when she shows up, but Richard's just like, you got the wrong guy. I don't know who your father is, and if I did, I wouldn't have pushed him off a building. But it's like with him telling her that she has the wrong guy while he's wearing the Pico suit, you can tell why she's getting more and more frustrated. So eventually Richard understands that he needs to show her. And it's not even to say she would actually know who Spider-Man really is, but it's more so on her end seeing that he's just a kid. So that's where she's like, wait, how old are you? So Richard tells her 15 and a half, because when you're a kid, that half really matters. So he asks her, how old are you? And she tells him almost 17. So he's like, okay, so 16. And that's where she tells Richard and a half. And that's where she puts it together and she's like, okay, you're really not Spider-Man. So he tells her, yeah, I said that exactly the way I was supposed to. I was direct, I was emphatic, I projected, my enunciation was clear, and I used declarative sentences. So right there, she's just like, yeah, you read a lot of books, don't you? So he's like, a few. And after that, they introduce themselves to one another. And it comes off like they may turn out to be really good friends. And while things are looking up for Richard and Felicia, it's here where we jump over to Peter and Harry, where in their case, things have been better. Because since Kraven has dropped these guys down in the Savage Land so he can hunt them down, it's only a matter of time before he catches up to them. And as of right now, Peter and Harry's only plan is to head in a straight line towards the edge of the Savage Land so they can make their way out. And along the way, it's kind of like Ark survival, because these guys have got a raptor as a mount, they're stopping on occasion to make sure that they're fed, but this whole time, the only thing Peter can think about, even with them getting as close as 1 mile from the edge, is the fact that Kraven knows about his family. He knows about MJ and the kids. And as they continue to make their way, Harry notices that Peter isn't quite present in thought. So he tells Peter like, hey man, you need to focus on right now, because we gotta succeed at this before we can do anything about out there. And that's where Peter tells him, don't tell me what I have to do, Harry. I know what I have to do. And I know in what order. First we escape, then we hide our families, then you suit up and we take care of business. And that's when Harry's like, yeah, okay, and then what? And he asks Peter, do you really think you're going to be able to hide from these people forever? Because the truth is, someone like Kraven is going to keep coming. But Peter just puts an end to the back and forth and he tells Harry, like you said, let's focus on the now. And then boom, Kraven hits their raptor mount with a headshot, which knocks it over, causing it to land on Harry and basically break his ankle. So Peter lifts up the raptor so Harry can get out from under it, only for Kraven to shoot it again. So quickly the two of them take cover, and Kraven's just like, come now, come out and play. It's no fun if you simply wait for your death. So he shoots the rock they're hiding behind as a bit of a fear tactic to intimidate them and let them know that he knows where they're hiding. So right here, Peter tells Harry that he's gonna distract Kraven so Harry can make his way for cover in the jungle. And at first when Harry hears this, he's like, what kind of plan is that? But Peter just steps out from behind cover, and when he does, he yells, now Harry, go now, as his spider sense starts to go crazy. Because like we've seen before, Peter's aware of his spider sense, even though he's not sure exactly what it is or what it's called. Because we saw an example of this back when him and Harry confronted Wilson Fisk, when he trapped the three of them in a cage together and attacked. Because it was like back then, you can tell that Peter was still figuring this out, since he was only able to secure his own safety. But as it stands, he knows that he has something that warns him of danger before it happens. He's just not as informed about the crucial details, not yet at least. So when Peter steps out in the open, Harry makes his way for the jungle. And when Kraven fires at Peter, he's able to dodge every shot and make his way back to Harry. And when he does, Harry's just like, well, that was really dumb. Because Harry doesn't know anything about Peter's spider sense. And Peter doesn't fully explain it here because he doesn't fully understand it either. So he just tells Harry, I think I can sense when he's about to shoot at me, before he does. And what's good is what works. So let's not overthink it. We need to keep moving. And right there, Harry's like, he's not sure he can make it because of his ankle. And this is where the Mole Man shows up, telling them that they're not going to make it out of here without some help. And at first, it might seem odd that he's even willing to help Peter and Harry here, but I think it becomes pretty clear rather quickly why he's doing this. Because when he summons some of his Moloids and they come up through this hatch in the ground, Peter's like, how'd you do that? And that's where Mole Man tells him, this is my domain, my refuge, my place of peace. I do not care for this current disturbance. And that's when Harry's like, you're one of them, aren't you? And Mole Man tells him, I am more of them than with them. But yes. So Harry goes on to ask, why would you betray the Kingpin to help us? So the Mole Man tells him, oh no, I would never dare do such a thing over such things as you. But the Kingpin knows not of Kraven's excursion. So as for why I would help you, that's really none of your business. And now while he's saying this, he's leading them through the hatch to an underground passage that'll get Peter and Harry much closer to the exit. But to go back to the question of why he's helping them, I would go as far as to say that the Mole Man is doing this out of fear of the Kingpin. Because if he finds out by way of Mysterio or whoever, Mole Man could just be like, hey, look, I tried to stop it. But when it comes down to it, this has Peter asking Harry like, hey, you think we can trust him? And Harry's like, hell no. But as they head through this underground passage, the Mole Man who's still up top, he's like, good luck, young heroes. But I fear that you are almost, what are you doing here? Just as he's met by Mysterio. And Mysterio's just over here like, I'm just observing this dangerous game you're playing. Because remember, the Mole Man, he told Mysterio about what Kraven's doing. And ever since, Mysterio's just been hanging around to check it out. And the Mole Man admits that he regrets even telling Mysterio about any of this. And Mysterio's just like, oh, but you did. And he lets the Mole Man know that he will not forget it. But in the middle of this conversation, Mysterio just disappears. So the Mole Man tells the Moloids to cover the passage and hide. But at this point, Kraven's seen that the Mole Man's helped Peter and Harry. So he's going to do what he believes he needs to do to find out where exactly Peter and Harry went. And for a really quick moment here, we head back up top to Richard and Felicia, where during this time, Felicia, she's basically told Richard everything. As far as who her dad was and how he was training her in secret so that one day she could take his place, which is basically how she became the Black Cat. And after sharing all of this with Richard, she's like, okay, well, how about you? What does your dad do? And that's where the Pico suit tells Richard to be careful. And that's where Richard just says, I'd love to tell you, but I'm a superhero. And that means I'm supposed to protect the identities of the people close to me. And that just makes Felicia even more curious. But back down under New York with Peter and Harry, after they make their way out the other side, Harry sets up a trap with the collars they had before because they figure since Kraven's such a great tracker, it's likely that he's going to follow them the way they came. And these bombs might not kill him, but they'll be enough to slow him down. And at this point, with the two of these guys basically making it to the home stretch, the conversation shifts towards what their next move's going to be. So of course, Peter's like, let's get out of here. Because MJ, the kids, Gwen, they're all unprotected with no idea of what might be coming for them. And that's when Harry's expression changes, where it almost looks like he feels guilty. So Peter's like, what is it? This is where Harry tells him Gwen's not in danger. Probably not, anyway. So Peter's like, what are you talking about? And Harry tells him, you heard of ransom insurance? Like if someone kidnapped me, the insurance company would make sure the kidnappers are paid off if I'm returned. It ensures that things don't get out of hand. So Peter's like, yeah, okay, I don't get it. So Harry tells him Gwen and I have an elevated version of that. Danger liability. If something happens to either of us, not only does someone try to resolve it, but the other person gets an extreme level of security. It's invisible to the person being protected, but effective. Otto created the protocols, and he would have activated them by now. And he would have done the same for you, but... And that's where it hits Peter, because Otto would have given his family the same protection. But because Peter didn't trust Otto, he never told him his true identity. And Harry didn't disclose that either out of respect for Peter. And I can only imagine the shameful expression coming from Harry with him telling this to Peter. It's mainly coming from the fact that he's not worried about spending more time here to go after Kraven, because technically he has all the time in the world to stay here and fight. The only thing is, without his suit, he needs Peter's help to kill Kraven. So I can only imagine that Harry feels bad about not telling Peter this until now. And it kind of pisses Peter off, because he's like, oh, so you and your people are good, but MJ and the kids are out there by themselves. So he tells Harry, we're getting out of here. Now. And I gotta say, even with seeing this exchange between the two of them, I truly believe had Harry told Peter about this whole family protection protocol and how Otto would handle it if something happened, had Harry told Peter all of this before, he still would have said no. And I'm very certain about this because when Peter and MJ had a talk not too long ago about whether or not she should feel scared or what she would do if anything were to happen, and at the time Peter was just like, if I ever come home and tell you to run, be ready to run. And so now that they're in danger, Peter wants to hurry and get home to make sure nothing happens to his family. But as they make their way out, for a moment here we jump back over to Mole Man, who's just found out that a ton of his Moloids got slaughtered by Kraven, who went full Anakin Skywalker on these guys. And not just the men. But no, really, because Kraven knew that some of them could talk, he tortured and killed them off until one of them would, so he could find out where the tunnels go, which would then let him know where Peter and Harry are. And it's crazy when we get this revelation, because as soon as we go back to Peter and Harry, Kraven is on them with the minigun, and he just gets to spraying. So Peter tackles Harry, telling him to get down, just before telling him to head back to the hatch. And just after that, Peter gets Kraven to fire off and waste his ammunition, while dodging all these bullets along the way, until eventually he hears Kraven's gun go click click. which lets Peter know that Kraven's out of bullets. But Kraven's just like, I have as many guns as there are ways to hunt my prey. Don't you see? I have hunted everything and never failed to catch them. There is nowhere you can run. But now that Peter has Kraven back close to where they came out the hatch, he tells Kraven, I guess I should stop running then, right? Just before he gives Harry the signal to set off the trap that Harry had here waiting for Kraven. And I gotta tell you, man, when this bomb goes off, and I mean, I don't know if this was intentional, but as soon as this bomb goes off, it turns Kraven into a Metro Boomin album cover. Y'all remember Not All Heroes Wear Capes from 2018? So I imagine that explosion just sounded like Metro! And that's all they heard, I'm sure of it. But as expected, the explosion alone didn't kill Kraven. So Kraven goes to attack Peter with a knife and it doesn't work out. And even after knocking Kraven down, he still reaches for his rifle, only to have Peter take it from him and snap it like a twig. And as Peter goes on to hit Kraven, he tells him that he's crossed the line and that no one goes after his family. And it comes to a point where Harry's like, do it, Peter. Finish him. But Peter stops and he tells Harry, no, I'm not like him. We're not like him. And I gotta tell you, that's where Peter's wrong. He's very wrong. Because if Harry had Peter's powers, he would have already ripped out Kraven's heart and ate it by now. Because we know without a doubt, Harry doesn't mind going for the kill. Because we saw what he did to Bullseye. And back when Peter had his back turned to Black Cat, the original Black Cat, Harry shot that dude off the roof and didn't think twice about it. And you can even say back at that time that this was the moment where Peter first started to realize how far Harry would actually go. Because when Harry did this, Peter knew that he wasn't in danger because his spider sense didn't go off. And he even told Harry, I didn't feel anything. So even then, with Harry saying that this guy was going to kill you, I had to do it. This led to Peter having his doubts. And it's almost like this supported Peter's optimism in a way, where he's led to believe that there's no need to be as extreme as Harry's telling him to be. But even now, Harry's telling Peter that we have to kill him. Because this dude's a killer and he won't stop until he wins. It's either going to be him or us. And as soon as Harry says this, Kraven reaches for his pistol. He draws it, he fires, and it goes right through Peter. And once again, Peter's just like, I didn't feel any danger. Why didn't I feel any danger? And Kraven tells him, because I was not aiming for you. You were just in the way. And that's where we see that Kraven shot Harry in the face. So Kraven tells Peter, you should have listened to your friend, for he was right. I will never stop. The hunt never ends. And that's where Peter just goes off. And at this point, Peter's ready to kill Kraven with his bare hands, at least until he's approached by Mysterio, who shows up here saying, well, this is quite the dilemma, isn't it? Normally we would be enemies, as our allegiances demand. But in this moment, that is not the case, because I am more interested in him than you, hero, for I have plans. But should he die, should you choose to continue beating him to death, then his end would mean my full attention would turn to you. So I have to ask, is that what we really want? And Peter's just like, he killed my friend. So Mysterio tells him here, and like your friend said, he's a killer, and that's what killers do. So you have to wonder, if he's so good at it, what makes you think your loved ones are safe? How do you know that he has not already sent someone to visit them? Honestly, what makes you think that they're still alive at all? So this has Peter wondering if Mysterio knows something that he doesn't. So he asks him if Kraven did send someone to his family, only for Mysterio to tell him like, man, I don't know. But he goes on to tell Peter that he should run home now, because even though he wasn't able to save his friend, perhaps he could still save his family. So Peter takes this advice and he rushes home. And so he gets there to find that MJ's okay. And since she's fine, he already knows the kids are okay. But on her end, Peter's been missing for a while, so she's just glad to see that he's alright. But while she's holding him, that's when she feels the blood. And this is where Peter tells her that Harry's gone. As he tells MJ, Harry's dead. I couldn't save him. And it's a really emotional moment just because of all the ups and downs that we've seen Peter, MJ, Harry, and Gwen go through. And to take it a step further, Peter now has to tell MJ something that he was hoping he would never have to. And I mean, in addition to saying that Harry is dead, because I'm sure he was hoping to never have to say that. But it's here where he tells her the people who did this, they know who we are, who we really are. They know our names, where we live, they know about our children, all of it. So now this is literally that time where they talked about before, where MJ's telling them that she's scared. And when they're now asking Peter, what are we going to do? He now has to look her in the eyes and tell her what he told her before, which is that they need to run. And so yeah, we're gonna pick back up on this really soon. But I gotta say, Mysterio's timing, it's got me thinking some things, but I'm gonna hold off for now. But I'm curious to know what you guys think in the comments. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here, who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.